At 35 years old, Idi Dauda has to feed an extended family of 18. He works non-stop. His 15 hectares of millet and sorghum earn him approximately $1,200 per year, which he considers pretty good by Niger's standards. But during last year's famine, it was not Dan Saga's crops that saved the village, it was its trees.
Last year's famine affected all of Niger. We were also hit. But here we managed to cope with it, because people who had nothing to live on cut the trees in their fields and sold the wood to buy food.
The farmers now want to reintroduce tree species which have disappeared from their fields. Idi Dauda inherited a nursery from his uncle, and they're all coming to him to buy trees. Never one to miss an opportunity, he swoops on Dr. Lawanu for some expert advice on his trees. The story of Dan Saga's success has spread, and now other villages in the region are trying to outdo it by planting more trees. The severity of the 2005 drought forced Niger to make an appeal for food aid. Chris Rage, a Dutch soil conservation expert, was in the country at the time and saw for himself how villages such as Dan Saga escaped the worst ravages of the drought. At a conference in Geneva marking the UN Year of Desertification, Rage was able to deliver an optimistic assessment based on his field studies in Niger.
We've had a major drought last year causing hunger, and basically that drought has been hiding a number of positive trends. There has been quite substantial regreening during the last 20 years of parts of southern Niger. I think 250,000 hectares of what used to be completely barren, degraded land has been brought back into production. But there is an even more spectacular trend, and that trend is that farmers, since the end of the 1980s, have begun to protect young trees on their fields. So where there used to be 2 or 3 trees on a hectare, you will now find often 20 to 120 trees on 1 hectare.
No institution, national or international, will say for certain how much land has been overtaken by the desert since the terrible drought of the early 1970s. What is known is crops can be grown in just 1/5 of the land. Concerned to make sure no more land is lost, the government has tried to mount various donor-backed schemes to combat desertification. They have invariably failed, and Dr. Yamba Boubacar, a geographer with the National University, is certain he knows why.
In the past, efforts were made to reforest. At the time, we called it Operation Green Sahel. Young people rallied together during the rainy season to deforest land in many regions of Niger, particularly in places where we thought the desertification had advanced quite a bit. But when the youngsters came to plant trees, in many regions the local population then uprooted those trees. Why? Because they saw it as a way for the state to claim property of the land.
For Dr. Boubacar, the initiative has got to come from the bottom of this agricultural society. Top-down regreening schemes are doomed to fail, he believes. He suggested Suleiman Mahamans and Dr. Lawanu go to Koloma Baba, a village of 9,000 people in the Tahoua region, to see what grassroots action can achieve, especially when it comes from the women. In West Africa, women who are widows or who have been abandoned by their husbands are virtual outcasts. 16 years ago, with the help of an NGO, Rural Development Project of Tahoua, they were encouraged to begin recovering degraded land using a method called tassa. It was widely in use in neighbouring Burkino Faso, but was unknown here. It's labour-intensive, but labour is about all these near-destitute women had. Salma Musa didn't hesitate to get involved.
We were trained 16 years ago. We laid out the land and moved tons of rocks to achieve this. When the work was finished, the land was distributed. Every woman was given a patch of land and it belonged to her. We learned to make tasses and to use dung.
What's a tassa?
A tassa is a hole like this one. We were told that we have to dig the land in relation to the water flow. The earth pile in the hole diverts the water into the pit. As soon as the millet grows, it develops well and quickly. We have a little weeding to do, so it's less tiring.
You don't just dig a tassa on any type of land. Tassas have to be dug on plateaus or glassy slopes. It's land where the topsoil is gone, so it's hard. Nothing grows. There's no water infiltration. So, for water to soak into the soil, we have to make this little basin. These tiny bowls retain water so that it can filter into the ground. As soon as water filters down, the earth is stirred up and vegetation can grow naturally.